Blessed Lord, you've caused all holy scripture to be written for our learning. Grant that we would in such wise read, mark, learn, and inwardly digest, that by patience, comfort, and instruction of thy infallible word, we may ever embrace and hold fast the blessed hope of life eternal. Amen. Well, we are looking and working with my audio system here. Just a second. Dr. Ludwig Pastor's History of the Popes from the Close of the Middle Ages. And I put the thumbnail up as a shower because after you're reading through this stuff, there's just the worldliness and the grandeur and the power and the art, indulgences, the politics, the wars. It is just the most ugly picture that emerges from their own history. Yes, we're setting forth the facts. I'm giving you my opinion on the facts. You feel like you need a shower. That's my opinion. We're trying to get the facts here. Louis X, 1513 to 1521. Alliance of the Pope with the Emperor Charles V. Defeat of the French and increase of the states of the Church. Death of Leo X. Personality and manner of life of Leo. His finances in court. Medici in Rome. The Renaissance in the field of literature. Study of antiquity. Raphael and the plan of ancient Rome. Encouragement of the study of Greek. The Vatican Library and the Roman University. We can be thankful for the documents. Leo X is the patron of the arts, paid for by the people and the taxes. The stands, tapestries, and loggie of Raphael. Leo X and Michelangelo, promotion of the minor arts. The building of St. Peter's. Here we go. You know, they worship those stones and they go there like the little idolaters that they are and magnify tiny little human being. It's cult worship. The Council of the Lateran. The French Concordat. Ecclesiastical policy. And now we'll get his 50-page table of contents. This is from the University of Michigan Library. Here we go. Table of contents. Alliance of the Pope with the Emperor Charles V. Not a thing about Luther so far, but a lot of politics, of course. The Pope fears the ascendancy of the Emperor. His idea of the anti-imperial league. Now remember, 1519 is 700 years after Charlemagne. So they had been used to being the big top dogs in European affairs. This is nothing new. The Pope instigates an attack on Ferrara and represses the tyrants of the Marches. Giampaolo Baglioni summoned to Rome, his trial and execution on June 2. Manuel arrives in Rome as ambassador from the emperor on April 11th. First disturbance in the relations of France. It opposes the elevation of Delamarque to the cardinalate. The Pope proposes the elevation to the purple of Jean d'Orleans. France makes a grievance even of this. Anger of the Pope, who resolves to drive the French out of Italy and decides to take 6,000 Swiss into his service. See what I'm talking about? That's exactly what Paul did, what Jesus did, what the early apostles did, what the early church fathers did. This is an embarrassment and stain on human history. 1521, he succeeds in coming to an agreement with both Charles and France. Blank page. 1521, the attack on papal territory causes the Pope to declare himself openly against France and to make preparations for the expulsion of the French from Italy. Composition of the Allied army. Francis I endeavors to win back the Pope, but fails. Boasts that he will enter Rome and impose laws on the Pope. Charles V urges the Pope to excommunicate Francis and informs him of his first move against France. Difficulties with the Swiss, whose conduct causes the Allies to retreat from Parma. Filianardi and Schinner succeed in getting together more Swiss troops, who advance into Italy and join the Allies, and are recruited by deserters from the French. Milan and the whole of Lombardy conquered. Joy of the Pope at hearing this, as his position was critical on account of the expenses of the war. Need more than a shower. Convalescence on November 5th. Intelligence reaches him November 24 of the defeat of the French. Meets with an enthusiastic reception on his return to Rome and talks about a public thanksgiving. Is taken ill on November 26. On December 1, learns that Parma had been taken. Receives extreme unction and dies at midnight. Consternation of the friends of the Medici. Precautionary measures taken by the Sacred College. Suspicions of poison. Opinions of this of Vettori, Gucci, Ardini, and Giovio. Most probably the Pope died from malaria. Extravagant attacks on his memory. Buried very poorly. A tomb erected for him by Paul III in Santa Maria sopra Minerva. Personality and manner of Leo X, his finances and court. Outward appearance of Leo X, far from attractive. His musical and pleasant voice and manner, majestic but full of charm. The portrait of Leo X by Raphael in the Pitti Gallery. His character is described by Marino Giorgi. His words, "Let us enjoy the papacy," etc., rests on no authoritative tradition. Yeah. His determination to maintain the strong position of the Holy See. Enjoys to the full the highly developed culture of his age with unembarrassed lightheartedness. His high culture and receptivity of all that is beautiful. Exact in the fulfillment of all religious duties. Testimony to the undoubted piety of Louis X. The spotlessness of morals. In great benevolence, scarcely a work of Christian charity he did not support. His activity in redeeming Christian slaves. His tact and amiability in intercourse with others. Yet in political matters could be very severe. His prudence in critical moments. Double-dealing policy of the Pope, notably in his negotiations with Charles V and Francis I. His delight in following crooked paths and in keeping his plans secret. But I thought you just told us how pious he was. At first, Bibbiena is the Pope's confidant, then Julio de Medici, who in important affairs is the ruling spirit, but has to take the Pope's opinion on all matters. Important business with the ambassadors carried on by the Pope in person. The Pope's pleasure in giving, leading hymns, leads him into wanton extravagance. But I thought you told me how pious he was. and to squander the savings of his predecessor. Ponseti becomes the papal treasurer. Methods tried to procure money. 1513. Financial ruin, the result of the Urbino War. The account books of Serapica. Georgie's estimate of the papal revenue. 1513. Revenue from proceeds of saleable offices at other sources. Subs paid by Cibbo and Armelini for the office of Carmelengo. Taxes in the states of the church remain low. 1521. Great difficulty in raising money for the war against France. Financial crisis brought about by the death of Leo X, and many of his friends are ruined. The Florentines largely responsible for the enormous papal expenditure. They inundate Rome, and their greediness is boundless. They obtain many lucrative financial posts. All the great families of Florence represented in the papal familia. Florentines in the service of the Pope as poets and artists. Many hold military and diplomatic appointments and nunciatures, the Pope's relatives. His friendship with Leo X. 1516. Sent his legate to the emperor, later to Francis I. His character and tastes. Friends of the Pope among the younger cardinals. Many prelates patronize art and literature. The Roman nobles, with few exceptions, are not distinguished. The banker Agostino Chigi, his famous fortune. The general patronage of the art. 1519. The banquet given by Lorenzo Strozzi. Corruption of Roman society, which is preeminently cosmopolitan. Satire by Ariosto on the Curia. Chapter 4, Medici in Rome. Extraordinary development of the city. Important improvements promoted by the Pope. Description by the Venetian ambassador. The Leonine city. Palaces of the cardinals. Many new buildings erected, remarkable for their beauty. The Trastevere retain its medieval character. State of the ruins of ancient Rome. The Forum, Capitol and Palatine. Old St. Peter's. Beauty and splendor of the Vatican. Sculpture of the Belvedere. The Pope's Menagerie. The pilgrimage to the seven churches. Pissarro's report of the Roman antiquities. Alberto Pio di Carpi and Baldassare Castiglione. Rome becomes the center of European culture. Opinion of Erasmus. However great the evil in society, still there is not a little of what was good. Sadoleto. The mode of life and occupations of Leo X. His great temperance and fasts. His great love of music. Number of musicians at the papal court. Perfection of the papal choir. Next to music, improvisation, most appreciated. The improvisatore Tibaldeo, Colti, Stracchino. Professional jesters and buffoons. Fra Mariano, Camillo Querno. Ridicule cast upon his vanity. Barballo of Gaeta, cruel farce played on him. Harmed caused by his love of buffoonery. Fondness of the pleasure of the Pope for the pleasures of the chase. Description of hunting ground. Scandal caused by this. Description of a hunt by Giovio. Posthumo in Paris de Gracis. Kindness and affability of the Pope to the poor on these occasions. They greet him with joy. Life of Leo X when at Magliana. Description of the castle and its neighborhood. Magnificence of the pageants held in Rome. 1513, the conferring of the Roman patriciate on the Pope's nephews. Oh, how very nice. The ceremonial for this is repeated at the Vatican for the pleasure of the Pope, but you told me how pious he was. Leos watches the cardinal from the loggia of San Angelo, and is present at Ariosto's comedy Suppositi. Description of this scene by Paolucci, bullfight in the Piazza of St. Peter's. Scandal given by the plays of Ariosto. 1527, notwithstanding the grave outlook, the carnival takes place with its wonted brilliancy. The great triumphal procession through Rome. 1521, the Pope again at San Angelo for the carnival and witnesses the Moresca dance. Description of this by Castiglione. Meanwhile, opposition of the papacy to the north of the Alps daily increases. Opinions of Machiavelli and Vittori. Violent accusations by Giardini. 1520. The dialogue of Bartolomeo Carintani. Chapter 5. The Renaissance in the field of literature. Bembo and Saudoletto. Vida and Sonarzo. The election of Leo hailed by the whole educated world. The first acts, eminent Latinists summoned to Rome. Foundation of a college for the study of Greek. Generosity to poets and learned men who flocked to Rome as to their mother country. Events celebrated by the new Latin poetry. The poets pursue the Pope everywhere. He is unable to satisfy them all. The prominent position at the court of Leo X. 1520, he leaves Rome. Positions and tastes of Saudoletto. His religious spirit and disinterestedness. The Pope refuses to part with him. Character of Saudoletto's writings, his friends, Vida and his poem, The Christiata, appreciation of the work. Is requested by Leo to publish this, 1521. After the Pope's death, he attacks his memory. The humanist Fracastoro and Spagnolo Mantovano. 1519, Zaccaria Ferrara, applied by the Pope. His work in the reform of the breviary. Character of the changes made by Ferrari in the hymns. The other poets at the court of Leo. Casanova and Muzzarelli. Giano Vitelli and Posthumo. The German poets, friends of Goris. Rome inundated with good and bad poems and odes. Aristo disappointed at his reception by Leo X. Cultivation of rhetoric. Discourses by the humanists Equola and Valeriano. 1521, the oration on the history of Rome. The leading orators in Rome. 1520, receives the freedom of the city. Writes against Luther. Dies in September 22. Pasquino, its festival day on St. Mark's. The historians Guicciardini, Machiavelli, his ideas. Study of Antiquity, Chapter 6, Raphael and the Plan of Ancient Rome. Encouragement to the study of Greek. The Vatican Library and the Roman University. Latin Juvenal Manetti and his collection of statues. The first collection of inscriptions published by Mazzocchi. Albertini's work on the marvels of Rome. The work of Valeriano on the obelisks in Rome. The works of Andrea Fulvio. Services he renders to Raphael, who in his company visits the remains of ancient Rome. Raphael's intention to make a plan of ancient Rome. His great interest aroused by this. He dies before its completion. Philosophic works of Nifo and Pico della Mirandola. The work of Eggio Canicio on the philosophy of history. Leo Africanus, the geographer. Theological writers, finally, we get a little of that. Fiandino, Catarino, Cajetan, and others. Alberto Pio de Carpi and Erasmus. Abject servility of Erasmus. Well, yeah, he's a preferment hunter. He was always sucking up to people. Money. And then he'd turn his hand a little bit on those who fed him. He dedicates to the Pope his St. Jerome and Greek New Testament. Dispensations granted to him. Erasmus assures Leo X of his loyalty in the affair of Luther. Aleander accuses him of encouraging errors. Erasmus writes again to the Pope to defend himself, 1521, who urges him to use his talents in combating Lutheran doctrine. Was Erasmus treated with too much consideration? Protection extended by the Pope to the press of Aldus Manutius, Greek books printed by Aldus. He's jumping around here. 1513, revival of Greek studies. Lascaris and Misuras called to Rome by Leo X. And teach Greek in the college founded by the Pope for that end. Causes of the failure of the Greek college. Some of the works that issued from the press. The Pope's support of the study of Oriental languages. Well, finally, we get a little of that. There's life. The Pope doesn't define everybody. Question is, where were the elect in all of this? Leo X and the advancement of learning. The large number of writings dedicated to him. Additions to the Vatican Library not so great as might have been expected. The reason for this. 1513, the Papal Constitution on November 5 on reforms for the Roman University. Rivalry of the University of Pisa, to which some of the professors migrate. Cause of the downfall of the Roman University. Partly financial. Direct results of the literary influence of Leo much overestimated. Literary dilettantism, the prevailing feature. Chapter 7, Leo X as the patron of arts. The stanza, tapestries, and logi or logi of Raphael. The reign of Leo opens a new epoch in the career of Raphael. Pupils of Raphael, Jove, Franck, Penny, decorations of stanzas, the frescoes of the third stanza, Del Incendio. I guess we'll just call it there. Very little engagement so far on the Luther question, but that will heat up later, I'm sure. Tell out, my soul, the glories of his word. Firm is his promise and his mercy sure. Tell out, my soul, the greatness of the Lord, to children's children and forevermore. Godspeed.